make a good rental. It's really close to the base. So there was a point in our marriage where we had, I think, it was as high as 6 single-family homes that we were, that we were renting and making some cash flow on. And we're like, hey, this is not bad. Each of these is making $200, $300, $400 a month. That's a nice little gig here.
Yeah.
Then in one summer, 3 of them.
And I want people to understand that it's powerful. It's a big, big deal. And it's something that you can continue to multiply. You can get to a place eventually to where you have 100% of your income that comes in tax-free. And in a place like California, where we have all these massive amounts of taxes, you don't have that massive state tax and state income tax in Florida, you lucky devil, right? Right. And I'm like, I hope when I grow up, I'm going to be, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, and I asked him, I said, because you get this, right, from the podcast thing. I want everybody's story. Yeah. Okay. So I asked him, I said, how did you get to this place? And he said, well, it's interesting that you should ask. He said, I was a young resident complaining about it. But the reason I'm bringing this up, and the reason I think this is incredibly important, is I know you're not building hospitals, but you are building legacies. And it's important that people understand the power of investing in your syndication, investing in multifamily housing, investing in apartment complexes, right? Because your story, did you know there's a technology that's actually an app on your phone that uses sound waves to tell your brain what you want your brain to do? We had a young man that was a guest on our podcast, the Mike Litton Experience, who had a traumatic brain injury. He was sleeping 3 hours a night. He's using NuCalm now and he's sleeping more. Go to NuCalm.com, Mike15 promo code. NuCalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go today.
Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience podcast. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. Mike is passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
Marv McGuire, thank you so much for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. I'm super excited for our time together. Like we talked about before we hit record, everybody has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. So with your permission, we're going to start with where you were born, go up to today, and then we want to talk about these amazing things that you're doing with HCP investing. I love the fact that you guys are building legacies, especially now. It's more important than ever that we do that, and I'm super excited to talk with you about how you do that.
Man, thank you so much for having me, Mike. I'm excited to be here and just tell the story and really get into what we're doing at HCP Investing and just, have some fun. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Love this, buddy. I love it. So where were you born?
I was born in Houston, Texas.
Yeah. Did you grow up in Houston?
I did not. I only stayed in Houston for about 2 years. My dad was a jewelry salesman, and then he moved to Dallas, and I was in Dallas for about a year, and then they moved to a little town west of Fort Worth called Weatherford, Texas. And I spent my formative years in Weatherford, Texas. Probably at the time it was 20,000 people, kind of Friday night lights, played Friday night football, and just kind of went hay riding and feeding the cows and all kinds of good stuff. So
that's a great way to grow up, isn't it?
Dirt bikes, the whole deal. Yeah, we had a blast.
So a buddy of mine was born and raised in Weatherford. He was the best man at my wedding.
No way.
Yeah. Do you know Ted Bumgardner?
I do not. I do not.
So Ted was born and raised in Weatherford as well. So it's a small town, right? So everybody knows everybody, kind of, So what was your favorite thing growing up in Weatherford, Texas?
Man, I think my favorite thing about growing up in Weatherford, Texas, and even to this day, even though it's just growing so much, my family's still there. I have 2 brothers and a little sister, and my sister and one of my brothers is still there, along with my aunts and uncles. And it still has that small town feel, even though it's experienced tons of growth. So I go back to visit. We're going back in a couple of weeks, and kind of everybody still knows everybody to a degree. And it's still kind of like a comfortable pair of blue jeans, those one pair of blue jeans in your closet where you reach in and you go, man, this is my jam here. So it just hasn't changed to me. I mean, it probably has changed to a lot of other folks, but We used to cruise Maine on Friday night after the football games and go to the pizza place and eat pizza, and just everybody gathers and has a lot of fun. So it's a small town environment.
Awesome, man. So growing up, who was the most influential person to you?
Oh man, probably my dad by far, by far. You
Why?
know, he was a car salesman,
Yeah,
and he had just one of those personalities that was larger than life. I mean,
yeah.
he walk into the room and the whole room just went wham. Here's Mick McGuire, and but he was also a strict disciplinarian. So he
Mhm.
kind of shaped the way that me and my siblings kind of look at the world. And, you look somebody in the eye and you shake their hand, give them a firm handshake. Yes, sir. No, sir. Three bags full kind of thing. So,
Respect.
yeah, respect. He really, really put a high value on respect, discipline, and protecting your family name.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds like my grandfather. My grandfather was like a father to me. And I grew up on a farm in between Ponca City and Blackwell, Oklahoma, and on his place. And yeah, that was the deal, right? You look them in the eye, you shake their hand. It was all about respect. So
100%.
old world values, right? So did you go to high school in Weatherford?
I did. I did.
So what was your favorite subject in high school?
Math. I'm a
Yeah,
math guy.
yeah,
I've always been kind of a math nerd. Math and history. We had a
yeah,
teacher. My history teacher was a lady named Miss Shoemaker, and she was a storyteller.
yeah,
So she could take the French Revolution and turn it into this wild adventure, and it was awesome. And
yeah,
for a bunch of sophomores in high school, you're kind of like on the edge of your seat, like, "Hey, what is she going to say next?" And
yeah,
what did
buddy.
this crazy Frenchman do here? And then math. So
Yeah.
those are my two favorites.
So I'm gonna ask you a question that's going to sound a little loaded, but I'm curious to know. Football's a big deal in Texas.
Yes,
Did you play football in high school?
I did. I did.
What position did you play?
I played quarterback.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah, you
I
did.
played quarterback, and man, we struggled. My school during my years, we struggled mightily. I think my senior year, we were oh my goodness, 1-12 or 1-10, and it was a true testament to grit. Just to
Yeah.
we got the snot beat out of us a lot, but we still had a lot of fun with some good guys.
What was your favorite thing about playing quarterback?
I like the leadership piece of it. I like
Yeah,
the guy that was, you're in the game every game, kind of like I
yeah,
played catcher in baseball, and
mhm,
you can't take a play off when you're a quarterback or a catcher,
yeah,
and a lot of responsibility
yeah.
for success or failure, and it's sometimes it works out in your favor, sometimes it doesn't, but those are the things I like best about it.
I get a feel that we're going to hear in your life story that you gravitate to leadership. I'm just suspicioning that. So after you graduate from Weatherford, where do you go?
I went to the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland.
What made you do that?
Well, my sophomore year in high school, my
Mhm.
dad and mom took me up to visit my aunt, lady named Eve Washburn, and she lived on a boat in Annapolis Harbor.
Mm,
A really cool kind of, talking about an adventure type of lifestyle.
yeah.
And I went up and stayed a couple weeks with her on her boat in Annapolis Harbor, and we're looking across the Severn River, or Annapolis Harbor, actually, at the Naval Academy. And it's just, I
Mhm.
want to take you on a tour. And I think it was a total setup with my dad.
Total setup.
But we went on a tour. We spent the whole day at the academy, and after that, this is where I want to go to school.
What
So
was it that hooked you
I
from
think it
that
was a
tour?
structure, really.
Yeah.
I'm a structure guy. I like having a routine. I like having a schedule. Every day before I log off my computer, I send myself an email. Okay, tomorrow you got to knock off you got to hit these targets. So I think it was a structure for him.
That's cool. That's cool. So you go to the Naval Academy. What happens after that? Do you end up going into active duty as an officer?
I did. I graduated in 92. I became a logistician, a Navy Supply Corps officer.
Mhm.
I went to training in Athens, Georgia, where I met my beautiful wife, Victoria. And from there, after kind of logistics training, we went and they shipped off to Japan. So I took a ship out of Yokosuka, Japan, and I always tell everybody, we dated. Victoria and I dated. It was only a 7-month training period, and we dated. And she was the first young lady I took home to meet my parents.
Mm.
And then I flew off to Japan, and she was still going to go. She still had some school to finish at the University of Georgia. And in April that year of '93, she flew over to Japan. We were married in June of '93. And only after we were married did she tell me she flew over on a one-way ticket.
Oh, wow.
She
Wow.
she knew and I knew, so it was pretty awesome.
Oh, that's cool. So she's a Georgia Bulldog.
Oh, we're hardcore Georgia Bulldog fans for
That's,
sure.
that's
And an
cool.
Army brat. So her dad's a retired sergeant major, and she's been a military brat or a military spouse for 50 years.
Wow. So
Pretty crazy.
did you meet her at training?
I met her in Athens at the Supply Corps School, the Navy Supply Corps School.
There you go. What was she doing there?
She was a brand new senior at the University of Georgia.
Okay. So she was at the school though?
Yeah, she was at UGA.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go. That's cool, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So so how long were you in the Navy?
I graduated in '93 or '92, and then I
Right.
spent 21 years of active duty. So I made a career of it and retired in 2013.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your service. We appreciate it.
Appreciate this.
So when you retired, where did you decide to live? Were you in Florida at the time?
We were in Tampa Bay, Florida. I was stationed at the United States Special Operations Command.
Big deal.
McDill.
Yeah.
I was stationed at McDill. I spent my last 5 years there, working for supporting special operations, and retired in 13. And looked around on what I wanted to do, and it's so funny. So a lot of retiring military guys are like, man, I got to do something different,
Yeah.
And I wanted to go into finance, maybe work for Raymond James or Merrill Lynch, or I'm a sports fanatic. So
Yeah.
maybe work for the Rays or the Bucks or the Lightning, something cool.
Yeah.
And couldn't get anything to work because I had 4 kids. We have 4 children. And
Mhm.
at the time, they were all still pretty young. And I was like, man, I
Yeah.
still got to put kids through college. And all those professions are like, hey, you don't have any experience in finance or sports management, so we need to start you at this level.
Right.
I was already at this level. They're like, we'll work you up here in the next 3 or 4 years. And I was like, man,
Yeah. I
I'm
don't
gonna
know
make
if you can
hay while
wait
the
that
sun is
long.
shining. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I became a
You got
federal
mouths to
contractor.
feed, right? I mean, come on.
Exactly. So I went into federal contracting.
Cool. So you go into federal contracting and you're in that for how long?
10 years. Spent 10 years as a federal contractor.
Okay. What was your favorite thing about your 21 years active duty in the Navy? And then what was your favorite thing about federal contracting for 10 years?
100% the people, the camaraderie. I
Yeah.
mean, without question. Loved seeing the world in the Navy, visited, dozens and dozens of countries, did some really, really cool things, but hands down, leading people and developing the relationships and that's 100% on the Navy and the
Yeah.
relationships and being able to work with people and really form some special relationships. Same thing in industry as a federal contractor.
That's cool. So at some point, you decide to get into investing in real estate, right?
Mhm.
And specifically multifamily, like apartment complexes, that kind of thing. Talk about sort of the decision making process. How did you get to that point? And then what made you decide to go ahead and start that business? The reason I'm asking is there are people that are listening to this that I guarantee you are thinking about getting into investing. They're thinking about buying apartment complexes. They're thinking about starting their own company. Just talk about that thought process and what led up to all that.
Certainly. Well, Victoria, my wife's been a residential real estate agent for goodness, 20 some, almost 25 years, 23 years.
Oh, wow.
And so we've been investing in real estate for about that long because we
Yeah.
just, hey, this is a great property. Even during the military, hey, let's start a family here,
Yeah.
or hey, this make a good rental. It's really close to the base. So there was a point in our marriage where we had, I think, it was as high as 6 single family homes that we were renting and
Mhm.
making some cash flow on. And we're like, hey, this is not bad. Each of these is making $200, $300, $400 a month. That's a nice little gig here.
Yeah.
Then in one summer, 3 of them, we had to replace a roof. We had a renter move out in the middle of the night in one of our properties in Jacksonville, Florida, and did $15,000 worth of damage.
Oh,
Then
geez.
we had a major leak in one of our properties here in the Tampa Bay area. And, over the course of about a 4-month period, it was $30,000 worth of unexpected expenses.
Yeah.
And we just kind of threw our hands up. We're like, hey, that wipes out the profit for the last 2 or 3 years. There's got to be a better way and a less hands-on way, because I
Yeah.
can't tell you how many refrigerators I've hauled around in the back of my truck, or floors I've replaced, or
Mhm.
Facebook Marketplace washers and dryers. I mean, just bananas.
Yeah.
And so we looked at office and retail. We looked at industrial and flex space, but we really kind of came back and gravitated towards multifamily because, we understood tenants, we understood
Yeah.
leases, we understood cash flow. And so we decided to scale up. We sold our single family portfolio and put that money into, started buying apartment complexes. And
Mhm.
we've,
Did you know there's an app that has no side effects that allows you to use sound waves to tell your brain what you want it to do? It's called NuCalm.com, and it's amazing. It literally uses sound waves. If you want to tell your brain to go to sleep, if you want to tell your brain to recover, if you want to tell your brain to put you in peak physical state, if you want to tell your brain to focus, if you want to tell your brain to take a power nap, you can do all of these things and more with NuCalm.com. Go to NuCalm.com today, promo code Mike15. NuCalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off.
we bought six complexes here over the last couple of years. Rapidly 850 units and about $100 million under management right now. So we've had rapid growth and scale. So it's been amazing.
So if somebody's thinking about building a legacy, right, and they come to you to talk to you about it, what does that process look like? Like, are you sitting down with them and going through what are you talking to them about?
Yeah, the first thing we do is I want to get to know people,
Yeah.
kind of like I think it's the Texan in me. I mean, I want to build a relationship with people. I want
Yeah.
to know, hey, why are we having a conversation? What about a generational wealth? What's your vision?
Yeah.
A lot of people I talk to say, hey, I just want to be able to put my kids through college. Some people say, hey, I want to build $1 million nest egg. Some people say, I want to put my grandkids through college. So really want to have that conversation and say, hey, what's generational wealth to you?
What's your legacy? Right?
Exactly. What are you
What are we
trying to
building?
build?
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you building? Like for
Yeah.
Victoria and I, we want to be able to bless each of our children and help them get into their first home, because
Yeah.
right now, you know, they're all in their 20s, and folks in their 20s right now are going to have a hard time buying their first home, just the
Yeah.
way the market is right now. So we want to be able to help our kids get into their first home. We want to be able to really help our grandkids
Mhm.
someday, get through college, and then we want to leave a sizable legacy for our family. And so I want to have that conversation with people, kind of introduce Victoria, let them know what we're all about, what we believe in, what our values are, and then, you know, learn about them, and
Mhm.
then really kind of figure out. I explain our business model, and so I'd never ask anybody to invest, unless they understand something. I think it was
Yeah.
Buffett that says, never invest in something that you don't understand.
Yeah.
And so we spend some time really going through those 3 things initially. And then I'll usually send over some sample deals to give people some idea of kind of what we invest in.
Mhm.
They look like, what they feel like, what are the returns. That usually generates at least 1 or 2 more calls. And then that gives us a level of comfort as well. And
Mhm.
then when we have deals, they'll be on the list, and they can, there's never any pressure with us. It's just kind of like, hey, this is for some people, it's not for other people.
Mhm.
And but I think what we've seen over the course of the last, 26 or 27 months is uh, people real when they hear about the business model, and people know that most millionaires own real estate
Yeah.
that have generated a significant level of wealth. Many, many, many of them, the highest percentage, have done it through real estate. And almost everybody realizes that, but so many people don't know how to get involved in it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. And they also fear the most what they don't know,
Yeah.
right?
Um,
So I was on your website, obviously, doing some research before we met. And one of the things that I noticed was you all are doing syndication. Can you talk about that for a second and talk about sort of the benefits of syndication versus being an actual active owner
Sure.
manager kind of thing?
Exactly. Well, what I like about syndications is it's teamwork.
Yeah.
The folks like me and my wife and our partners who are going to be managing the property on a daily basis team up with folks that, don't want to change toilets and
Yeah.
fix lights
And haul
and
refrigerators around in their truck
yeah,
and
that, people are
put
busy.
ropes back on.
Yeah, exactly. People are busy. So we put in our money, we pool our money. My wife and I put in our money with our partners, and people that don't want to deal with the hassles, they put in their money. We work together to find these apartment complexes. And basically, once we close the apartment complexes, the beauty of these is they're not valued like like your house.
Hmm.
If you wanted to move, a real estate agent would come to your house and say, "Hey, Mike, I think your house is worth 500,000
Yeah.
because your neighbors sold for 550 and the house next door down the street sold for, 475. So we
Hmm.
think yours is worth 500." Uh,
Hmm.
Commercial real estate, these apartment complexes are totally different.
Yeah.
They're all valued on how much money they generate.
Hmm.
So that gives the investors, both the people they're managing every day and the people that don't want to deal with it,
Yeah.
the ability to gives us more control. So we go in and say, hey, we have a very extensive business plan, and we say,
Hmm.
hey, how can we raise the revenue on this property while decreasing the expenses? And the more money the property generates, the more valuable it is. And so once we implement that and we increase the revenue, the folks that are passive investors that aren't involved, we just start sending them monthly checks
Hmm.
based on the profit. And the beauty of it is, that's passive monthly or quarterly cash flow.
Hmm.
There are incredible tax benefits for these assets. You can write off a great deal of the improvements and take some of the depreciation via something that's called a cost segregation study, which
Hmm.
won't get into here in this conversation. It gets pretty complex. And then we love it because of the control that I mentioned, and then also the resiliency.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like the stock market. It's not like crypto where it's going up, 1,000 points in one day, or Bitcoin, but at the same thing, it's not going down
Right.
in a day. These things are going to appreciate, 3, 5, 7, 9% a year, depending on market conditions and location. And our business model is we anticipate and intend to, double people's money
Yeah.
every 5 years. We have a 5-year business plan. So we
That's
try to
cool.
double people's money in 5 years.
So really, when somebody participates in syndication, they're making their money work for them,
That's 100% correct.
right? It's not them going in and changing toilets and having to, do all that. They don't have to mess with all that. All they're doing is investing their money with you, and then you're reporting back to them how they're doing.
That's correct.
And cost segregation we don't need to get into the weeds on this, but cost segregation is one of those things that allows you to use accelerated depreciation. And depreciation is something that's a tax write-off. And the way I explain it to people is years ago in the first Trump administration, there was a young man by the name of Jared Kushner that people might have heard of that's married. He happens to be the son-in-law of Donald Trump. He's married to Ivanka, right? And what's interesting is the legacy media, the liberal media was mainstream media, whatever you want to call them. They were excoriating this kid and his family for not having paid any income tax for years, for decades. What's interesting though is they did that by owning real estate and specifically by owning apartment complexes, right? And what that does is the total cost of that improvement is depreciated in residential, like regular residential depreciation over a 27 and a half year period, right? So if it's $1 million improvement, you can't depreciate land, but if it's $1 million improvement, you basically spread that $1 million over 27 and a half years. That's a write off on your taxes. If you have enough of that as a write off, you literally can have tax-free income because your income is sheltered from taxes because of the depreciation amount. Okay. Cost segregation isn't any more than a way to use accelerated, what we call accelerated cost recovery, right? It's a fancy way of saying depreciation, but it's accelerated tax write-off. It's just a faster way to do it that they give you the opportunity to use outside of that 27 and a half years. Reason I share that with people is I want people to understand what depreciation is, and specifically why there are more millionaires made in real estate than just about any other mode. And the deal is there are two things in the federal tax code that are the most incentivized activities. Number one is owning your own corporation and employing people. Number two is owning rental real estate and renting it out. Okay. But think about it. The United States federal government understands, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they're that smart, but I'm going to tell you this. The United States federal government knows that they want owners of corporations providing jobs for their constituents. In addition to that, and right behind it, is they got to have somewhere to live, right?
That's 100%.
And specifically, they want them to have rental housing available to them, and so that's why they provide all of these tax incentives, right? Plus, 70% of this nation's net worth is real estate, and if you take care of the real estate, you take care of the economy. It's that simple, okay? So the thing that I want people to understand about this is syndication allows them to invest their money and let their money go to work for them, right? It's not just sitting there in a savings account earning 0.1% interest. It's literally going to work for them, and it's providing tax benefits for them that they don't oftentimes realize that they're going to receive until they actually see it, right? Because if they've never owned rental real estate before, or a business where they had, like we owned a Keller Williams Realty office for 18 years. And when we would go and buy a copier, we could write that copier off the first year because we used the thing called ACRS, Accelerated Cost Recovery System. It allowed us to do that, right? I'd go buy a car and I would get, if I used that car in the service of the business, I got to write off some of the depreciation. Reason I'm saying that is it's a tax write-off, and I want people to understand that it's powerful. It's a big, big deal. And it's something that you can continue to multiply. You can get to a place eventually to where you have 100% of your income that comes in tax-free. And in a place like California, where we have all these massive amounts of taxes, you don't have that massive state tax and state income tax in Florida, you lucky devil, right? But we do. And out here, it's 45, 50%. I mean, it can get ridiculous, right? The beauty of it is, if you get to where you're operating tax-free, you're saving yourself 30, 40, 50% on your money every year.
It's unbelievable.
It's unreal, dude. It's unreal. And what happens is year after year after year, the depreciation amount adds up.
Yep.
Right, as you invest more and more and buy into more and more. Exactly, right? And you get more and more of that tax-free income coming in, it becomes a multiplier effect. And eventually you get to a place to where you're making enough in passive income to where you don't have to work. You can, but you don't have to, right? I just want people to understand the power of this, because they're not living what you're living. You with me? And I'm not saying everybody. There are people that are listening to this that own rental real estate. Years ago, I was at this Keller Williams office that we owned on a Saturday afternoon, and a 70-year-old man walked in. He happened to be a medical doctor. Guess this, from Florida. Okay. True story. Walks in and he says, my son lives but his son was going to San Diego State University at the time. He said, my son's a student at San Diego State. He lives in a duplex that just went on the market for $800,000. I want to buy the complex, and I want my son to rent out the other unit and get income from it. Okay. And I said, great. He said, I'm paying cash. Terrific. Right. So we put him together with the agent, got him all written up, the whole thing. Right. So they're working on the paperwork, and he wants to talk to me. And he says, listen, he goes, I want to show you something. And he tells his wife to go out to the car and go get his tax return from the previous year. And she looked at him. She said, honey, you're paying cash for this. You don't have to show him your tax return. He said, no, I know that. I've already showed him my bank statement. He knows I have plenty of money and he had plenty of money, right? He's writing a check for this thing. And right. And so he goes, I just want to show him. So she goes out to the car. She kind of rolls her eyes. She goes out to the car, brings the tax return back, and he starts showing me Schedule E, the whole thing, right? So he's taking me through the whole thing. So this man makes $700,000 a year, passive income, completely tax-free, 70 years old, okay? It's a true story. And he literally looked at me and he said, when you grow up, I want you to be just like me. I want you to be just like this, right? And I'm like, I hope when I grow up, I'm going to be, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, right? And I asked him, I said, because you get this, right? From the podcast thing. I want everybody's story. Yeah. Okay. So I asked him, I said, how did you get to this place? And he said, well, it's interesting that you should ask. He said, I was a young resident at a hospital in Florida. And he said, in the hospital, the ceiling tiles were falling on the staff. The ceiling tiles were falling on the patients. Oh, okay. Ceiling tiles are made of asbestos back then. Okay. So this is a health hazard. This is not good. And everybody was up in arms about how bad this thing was. There was mold in the walls, and they're literally trying to heal people in this place. Okay. And everybody was talking about this, and the board of directors, all these people, the administrators, all of them, they were all up in arms because they couldn't afford to go build something. They just didn't know what to do. He's out playing golf. True story. He's out playing golf as a young resident with a buddy of his that he went to school with who's now a banker. And they're playing golf and they're talking, and he's complaining about the ceiling tiles and the mold in the walls and all this stuff, right? They just found the mold, by the way. And he goes, his buddy goes, you know what you ought to do? And he goes, no. He goes, let's go hook up with a buddy of mine that's a commercial real estate broker. Let's go find you a piece of land. You go meet with the board of directors, the administrators. And he said, you go get a lease signed. We're going to go build a hospital. We're going to borrow the money based on the lease that you're going to have signed, and they're going to lease that building from you. Okay? True story. This is literally what happened. He goes to the board of directors thinking there's no way on you know what, God's green earth, that they're going to do this. They voted unanimously to sign no joke, to sign a lease, to lease this building based on this is what he was talking about he wanted to do. Okay. Now he had renderings and drawings as to right, but they literally agreed to it. I'm not joking. And they did a 45-year, some crazy number, like way out there, right?
Wow.
And he went to the banker, and the banker said, we're going to finance 100% of this. You're not going to have to pay, you're not going to have to put any money into, you got to pay closing costs. But other than that, you don't have to put any money into the ground. You don't have to put any money into the construction, because literally they're doing it based on the lease that's signed.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
And so it's like this whole thing just came together. And he said, and it literally set me up for the rest of my life.
Yeah, it changed his life. Yeah, for sure.
Completely, right? Because he went from earning, and he was making good money, but he went from making good money and having to pay quite a bit in taxes, federal taxes, that kind of thing, to being completely tax-free. And he had the income coming in from the hospital. And you ready for this? He was the resident there. So he's a resident doctor, and he's also the owner of the building.
Oh my gosh.
How crazy is this?
Yeah,
right?
He's living the what do they say? The Vita.
And it all happened on the golf course from a conversation where he was complaining to his buddy about how bad that building was. And he wasn't the only one. Everybody was complaining about it. But the reason I'm bringing this up, and the reason I think this is incredibly important, is I know you're not building hospitals, but you are building legacies. And it's important that people understand the power of investing in your syndication, investing in multifamily housing, investing in apartment complexes, right? Because your story proves it out perfectly. You guys had 6 single family detached houses that you owned, right? That you were renting out. And you're like, hey, this is pretty cool. This is working, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that was $30,000 just went out the window.
Yeah.
Okay. If
Exactly.
if you had had a 60 unit apartment complex, it would have been a different conversation. And
100%.
so all of a sudden the numbers started rendering their ugly head to you to an extent, right? And you started going, okay, there's got to be a better way. And life sort of slapped you guys in the head and said, hey, let's go look at something else. And so you ended up doing that and learning your lesson, right? Which is it's sort of the history of your life, if you think about it, right?
Sure, for sure.
You learned your lesson and you basically went out and built a better mousetrap. And now you're helping people go out and do that for themselves. And I think it's incredibly admirable what you're doing. And I just love the fact that you're doing it. Let me ask you this. If somebody wants to work with you, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, you mentioned our website. So obviously, if somebody wants to go to our website, and it's a little different. It's heart, like your heart, SILL, capitalpartners.com. So hartzellcapitalpartners.com. My email address is Marv, like Marvin, MARV at HCPinvesting.com. And shoot, I mean, they can reach out via email. They can hit our website, and that'll alert me. I'm very, very active on LinkedIn. Talk to people. It's crazy what's happening. I mean, it's just blowing up. We've really, really had some explosive growth. I mean, I'm talking to somebody from the Middle East tomorrow. Friday, I'm talking to somebody from London. So people are very, very interested in this model and want to learn more and want to put their money to work.
Yeah. And it's solid, man. What you're doing is big. You're literally changing lives. And the website that I went to was hcpinvesting.com. Is that
Same one.
okay? So that's okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So Hartzell, can you tell me what the name Hartzell came from?
That's my grandfather's name. My
I
mom's
love
name
it.
and my grandfather's name. So, like I said, we lived in West Texas.
Yeah.
And I grew up on dirt bikes and, skipping rocks and going fishing. And his name was John L. Hartzell.
I love
And
it.
him and my grandmother, her name was Mamie Hartzell.
Oh,
And they patched together a 600-acre farm in just outside of Weatherford, Texas.
yeah.
And when they passed away and my mom passed away, part of my inheritance, I got a little bit of an inheritance, and I used that to start Hartzell Capital Partners. So in tribute to my grandfather and my grandmother and my mom, we named our company Hartzell Capital Partners.
I love that, buddy. I love that. That's so awesome. That's just like you to do that, by the way.
Well, it's legacy, man. It's
Yeah,
legacy.
it's how you roll, dude.
He left
It's
a
how you
legacy to us.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're our goal and our heart is to leave a legacy to our children, and our heart is to help others leave a legacy to theirs.
Yeah, granddad's proud, buddy. I promise you he is.
I appreciate that, brother.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you being a guest on the Mike Litton Experience. This has been a lot of fun.
I have so enjoyed it. I've so enjoyed it, Mike. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Marv. Can I ask you a question? Did you know that there's a technology that uses sound waves that'll tell your brain what to do? There literally is. It's called NuCalm.com. It can tell your brain to heal, tell your brain to sleep, tell your brain to do all kinds of things. It can get you fired up. It can be a pre-workout. NuCalm.com. And the promo code is Mike15. NuCalm.com, promo code Mike15 for an extra 15% off. Go today.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at the Mike Litton Experience.